The Nashville Predators are still alive. They came to Vancouver, defeated the Canucks 2-1, and this series is headed back to Music City. We've got lots to talk about. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. And Rink Wide Vancouver, a presentation of the Applewood Auto Group as we welcome you inside our Rink Wide studio in the lower lobby of the Wall Center Hotel. If you're looking for meeting rooms or conference space in downtown Vancouver, listen up. Consider the Wall Center. From executive and staff retreats to full-size conventions and everything in between. They've got conference and convention space to meet all of your needs. All starts with an email, sales@wallcenter.com. Jeff Paterson, back from Nashville, back in studio, and once again joined by Irfaan Gaffar. And this was supposed to be a night of celebration, the first time in, well, a long time since the Vancouver Canucks had punched their ticket to the second round on home ice in front of their adoring fans. People were ready to party. The Canucks got the lead in that third period, but third period leads have been tough to hold in this series, and the road team is now 4 for 5. Give the Preds credit. They didn't go quietly. They did what they've done throughout this series, but the Vancouver offense just couldn't get going aside from big Nikita Zadorov, the only Vancouver Canuck to score a goal on home ice in the last 2 games now.
Yeah, what did John Tortorella once say? That's great for Nikita Zadorov, but not so good for the rest of the group. I mean, look, we're going to dive into everything. It's funny you mentioned the first time in however long to punch their ticket to the second round. If the Canucks don't do it in Nashville and the Predators force a Game 7, it's going to be some nervous energy in that building for Game 7. But we're here to talk about Game 5 in Vancouver and kind of a lackluster performance, in my opinion, from the Vancouver Canucks, Jeff.
Well, I thought the first period, they were good. They were the better team by far. They forced the issue. They had opportunities, and really this night is all about missed chances. And I know they didn't generate a lot of shots. That shouldn't come as a news flash because they haven't generated a lot of shots throughout this period. UC Saros, who had struggled, and the numbers back that up. He came in with an .859 save percentage through 4 games. Canucks had wins from 3 different goaltenders. The Predators had been out-goaltended, but UC Saros stepped up in a big way, came through with some timely stops in this hockey game. But again, the Vancouver Canucks got the first goal. Nikita Zadorov waltzes through the neutral zone, gets away from Mike McCarron, and then Kiefer Sherwood down that left side, and from a sharp angle. We talked about saves that Saros made. Yeah, that's one that he maybe should have stopped, but it found its way in. And after 47 minutes, what was it, 43 minutes? 3:11 of that third period. Nikita Zadorov gives the Canucks a lead. This has been not just they were a dominant team on home ice through the regular season. The Canucks were 27-9-5 at Rogers Arena. They're 1-2 here in these playoffs. And as you said, next time we see them, it could very well be for a game number 7. I think the Predators felt that they were maybe owed one, the way that they let games get away on home ice. So they come to town. They didn't steal this one from the Vancouver Canucks, but down 1-0. They just stuck with it. They chipped away. A bit of a greasy one, obviously, from Roman Josi as the puck was sitting there in the blue paint, tantalizingly. We saw that the other night in Nashville when Casey DeSmith stopped the puck and it was in the behind him in the blue paint, and Tyler Myers swooped in. There was nobody there to play hero, and his Silov sort of rolled over. The pile pushed him back. Thought Rick Tocchet might challenge in that moment, but remember, the Canucks were already on a penalty kill. If they lose that challenge, then it's a goal, and Predators have another power play. So, high leverage situation, Tocchet. And I would imagine that's one of the questions he'll be asked post-game. Whatever the case, at 1-1, you're at home. You still have a chance to advance in the series. I think that probably went through Rick Tocchet's mind as well. And moments after the goal that was credited to Roman Josi, Brock Besser was sent in from the hash marks down by JT Miller. P.S. Suter hit a post in that third period on a pass from Brock Besser. And Elias Pettersson, everybody's been waiting. This is 5 games now. Still very little from Elias Pettersson. There was a little more to his game, I thought, than certainly we saw in Nashville. And what was it? Look at my notes here. The 2-on-1, it was PD and PDG. Pettersson and Phil DiGiuseppe. Pettersson holds probably the right play in that situation. 9 minutes to go. And there was room over Saros' shoulder. I mean, he's not a big goaltender. There's often room over UC Saros' shoulder. Pettersson tried to pick his spot, and again, it sort of speaks to where he is right now. He wasn't that far off with that opportunity. Rang it off the mask, in fact. But Saros makes the save that he had to in that moment, and the Predators able to get the go-ahead goal from Alex Carrier. Again, a strange night of hockey, as you said. I mean, nothing showing for 40 minutes, and then 3 goals in the third, all of them from defensemen. The forward feel like scored in this hockey game? Apparently not. I mean, there were some close calls, but this was a night for defensemen and goaltenders.
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of been the way this series has gone a little bit. Forwards really haven't exploded too much, and Quinn Hughes picking up an assist. He's now have 25 assists in 18 games against the Nashville Predators alone. Right. So this guy feasts. I mean, it was a weird assist on the Nikita Zadorov goal. He was skating the bench. He won't get the plus because he was on the bench when Zadorov scored there. But yeah, the goaltending. And I guess we have to start with kind of the day a little bit. And Artur Shilov's getting the start. I think that obviously, DeSmith was good enough to play, but not good enough to start. But it was one of those things where we've talked about this before. The Canucks kind of played with a little bit of house money, Jeff. You're up 3-1 now. And you lose, worst case scenario, you go back, you can put DeSmith back in the net. The Nashville Predators have all the momentum in the world from this hockey game now. They're going to go back home. You don't really know what the Canucks are going to do in net. Canucks have some pressure now with Casey DeSmith going between the pups. If it is going to be him, they might go with Shilovs. We don't know. We'll find out in a couple days. Next game isn't until Friday. But of the goaltending, Shilovs wasn't bad and Saros was good. And the Canucks didn't really test him once again. Only just 20 shots on net.
Yeah, no issues with Artur Shilovs. Yeah. Doesn't see the Carrier goal, good traffic in front of him. A seeing eye shot just inside the post, low on the stick side. And again, we said it was a good night for defenders. Predators get 2 goals from defensemen. The Canucks get 1, and that is the scoring on the night. Low shot totals again, 22-20. The Canucks, they obviously had the magic with the goaltender pulled the other night. Got a little sloppy in the final minute, had some trouble getting in and setting up. I think the Predators obviously are on high alert after what happened at the end of game number 4 there. Canucks trying to force overtime, but it was not to be. And look, like when Nikita Zadorov's your only guy that's scoring, then it is fair to question, like, where is the offense for this high-scoring team through the regular season? I mean, the Canucks scored in bunches. They made it look easy in the first half of the season. We know it's been a struggle, really, since the All-Star break. And sure, Elias Pettersson. You keep waiting for EP40. It's just not there. Nils Höglander, 24 goals in the regular season. He was into this hockey game. He had the big hit. He planted Alex Carrier on the seat of his pants, but Carrier obviously gets the last laugh. But Höglander had 3 hits in the first period. I thought the effort was there. And on that line, Ilya Mikheyev was the guy that seemed to have his puck on his stick more than the other two, and that is not what the Vancouver Canucks want or need. Mikheyev had a couple of opportunities off the rush in the second period. Canucks were applying pressure, but who knows if and when we'll ever see another Ilya Mikheyev goal. Like, it's almost at that point now. 1 goal in, I think 52 games or something for Ilya Mikheyev. It's remarkable. And so when he gets the puck in shooting positions, you can't have high hopes and expectations. Like, those have gone out the window for this guy. Yeah. And it was crunch time for anybody on this Vancouver Canuck Hockey Club. Dakota Joshua trying to be physical, takes the boarding penalty. And, penalty killing had been great. Power plays were terrible in this hockey game on both sides. The first 5 power plays of the night, not a single shot on goal. I've watched this game for a long time. You've been around this game for a while. I don't think the NHL keeps those types of records, but that can't have not a single shot on goal in 5 power plays. And then the only power play shot of the night, and Roman Josi is stopped by Artur Shilovs. And then the puck, as we said, was just lying there, ultimately gets pushed in. But that was the only shot generated by either team with the man advantage. Preds do get a power play goal, though, and they break the Canucks penalty kill, which had been terrific and has been terrific throughout this series. But, boy, in a tight game, Preds squeeze out a power play. The Canucks go 0 for 2 and didn't generate a single shot on goal. So they had some opportunities in that second period and did absolutely nothing with them. And, beyond that, you want to score with man advantage, but sometimes it's about just generating the momentum, and then you carry that over. And they didn't do that either, but give the Predator penalty killers some credit as well. They did a nice job tonight. Well,
both of them, right? Yep. Both the Canucks and the Canucks penalty kill is pretty good. I mean, the Predators did a good job. I think the Canucks problem a little bit is, they're not generating a lot of shots. We've obviously seen through this series is how it's gone. They're kind of dumbing the game down for themselves to make it easier based on their goaltender because they don't have their guy. Right? It almost kind of looks like that a little bit. Your focus is so much on the defensive part of the game and blocking shots and being so good in your end that, your goaltender is able to see everything and do everything, it almost takes away from your offensive output. And I think that that's one of the things where they can't do. It's why you see it, on the power plays. They're not even shooting the puck. They're just passing it around. And at even strength, not just generating any sort of chances. Everything's perimeter. Nothing's down the middle. Nobody's getting in Saros's kitchen. They had, obviously, we can talk about it all we want about Shilov's and the non-challenge on the first goal. But guess what? The Preds got into his kitchen. And that's how they scored the goal. There's a lot of people in our YouTube chat going absolutely berserk about the non-call and things like that. But another thing I want to point out, Jeff, they got destroyed in the faceoff circle. It's just under 40% for the Vancouver Canucks. That's not good for a team that was really, really, really good in the faceoff circle in the regular season. I mean, JT Miller, 6 for 14. Right? Elias Lindholm, 7 for 12. Your other big guys, Elias Pettersson, 4 for 6. It's not good enough when you don't start with the puck.
No, and look, Ryan O'Reilly's a master on the other side. He wins 16 of the 35 face-off wins that the Predators had. But you're right. The Canucks at home, they get to dictate the last change. They can get their matchups out there. And 6 of 20 for JT Miller. That's those aren't numbers that we're used to seeing. And Elias Lindholm at 37%. A little bit of a surprise there. No question about that. So, an area, now the Predators are at home. They can try to get O'Reilly out against whoever they want. Yeah. When I go back to the first period, again, I thought the Canucks, they fed off the crowd. Crowd was terrific. Again, people were there. They wanted to see the Canucks punch their ticket to the second round on home ice for the first time since the stanchion goal and Kevin Bieksa trip to the Stanley Cup final back in 2011. But that'll have to wait. And if they get the job done in Nashville, then they're on to the second round, but they won't have clinched on home ice, so they'll be in the second round and have an opportunity there, but they got to worry about getting out of this first round now. Again, I just look at the night, and I just think so many missed opportunities, and the notes that I've taken is, Philip Hronek had a couple of chances in the first period, seems reluctant to shoot still. We've talked about that guy with this big shot in the third period, went rink wide.
Worldwide.
Yeah. No, but he was set up on the right side and instead just fires a dart like right through the slot. Like, tee it up, dude. Like, you can shoot the puck. And
well, I mean, we've talked about it before as well. There's something there. There's definitely something there. The arm on the bench. Like he's not hiding it at this point. Yeah. He's going through something, but I agree with you.
Late JT Miller takes the hooking penalty on Carrier. Canucks kill that off. He steps out of the box. JT Miller with a glorious scoring opportunity there. And, would have blown the roof off the joint if he had been able to score, but he didn't. And then in the second period, I thought the momentum swung to the Predators. I thought they started, they kind of weathered that first period. Canucks outshot them 7-4. And then the Preds turned it up. They outshot the Canucks 11-4 in the second period, generated some looks. Canucks were in pretty good shape, but then there was Garland off the rush. Lindholm had Saros way out of the net and down, and couldn't do anything with it. And then moments later, Lindholm again set up by Garland. Like, there were 2 chances for that line. We talked about Mikheyev. He had his opportunities. The Canucks with a delayed power play, and they worked the puck around. And unfortunately, again, Mikheyev was the guy that had the puck on his stick in the slot. Didn't happen there. And so nothing to show through 40 minutes where there were opportunities. But, again, these are guys that scored. They had 5 20-goal scorers in the regular season. And outside of Brock, really, in this series, it's been a struggle for the other 4. I mean, JT Miller has played hard. He did again here tonight, was terrific in Nashville. But, when it comes to goal scoring, there hasn't been a lot for JT Miller. Certainly hasn't been any for Elias Pettersson, Connor Garland, Nils Hoagland. Like, those are the difference makers and the game breakers. And we'll get to our 3 stars a little bit later on here. But, kind of quietly, and certainly on this night, Philip Forsberg with both goals, he's in on both goals, 2 more assists. He's up to 6 points now through 5 games. And, he was their scoring leader in the regular season. And here he is again, chipping in, contributing, making things happen when he's out there on the ice. So we hear from Roman Josi offensively, really for the first time all series. This is a guy that led the National Hockey League in goals from defensemen, led the NHL in shots by blue liners as well. And you kind of wondered, like, would he be heard from? And ultimately it was a greasy goal, but it counts there. And so, I look at who contributed for the Nashville Predators tonight. Forsberg's got 2 points. Josi and Nyquist both on the score sheet. Quinn Hughes gets the assist, although Zadorov did all the work there. But, Canucks big guns. And I'm not questioning the effort, but it's playoff time. It's not so much about the effort. Yeah. It's about, did you show up and execute? And tonight didn't happen for the Vancouver Canucks top guys.
It's about execution. Just looking at some of our social channels, Jeff here, someone in our YouTube chat says, you have to view it from Nashville's perspective. They were fighting for their life, which is very much so the case. Obviously down 3-1. But if you're the Vancouver Canucks, isn't your mindset you don't want to go back to Nashville? Like, by any means necessary. You want to end this now. You get your probably a week off, let's say, give or take a couple of days before you look at your next opponent. So there has to be some urgency from the Vancouver Canucks. There has to be some desperation to try and get something done on home ice. I get it, the missed opportunities and stuff like that, but there's got to be more. Like, the 0 shots on the power play for this team and this unit, and the way that they were able to fire the puck around, the way that they scored so many goals, the power play 8 so early on in the season, it's inexcusable, especially at this point in the season.
I thought JT Miller sort of couched it properly and well this morning at the morning skate when he was asked about, how much incentive is there to make sure you don't go back to Nashville. And as much as these guys don't want to have to get on a flight and go play again at Bridgestone Arena, they have to now. But JT talked about the fact that, like, sure, that's a motivation, but it's in the back of your mind. Like, you're not going to win this hockey game just because you don't want to go back to Nashville. You were going to win this hockey game because you executed, as you said. And so, we saw urgency late in the third period the other day. And a few of the guys were asked about, can you carry over that urgency? Miller didn't think so because that was 6-on-5, both of the goals, and then overtime. Each game starts new, but it has been a struggle for the most part in this series, other than Brock Besser opening the scoring in Game 4 early on. It's taken a while for the Canucks to wade into these games. We know that there have been low shot totals in the first period. They got to 7, but they still haven't threatened double digits in the first period through 5 games here. And, whatever the motivations were, again, I didn't have enough. There have been some, like Friday night, they had 12 shots on goal, but they had a 2-0 lead, right? Yeah. You can understand why they defended the way that they did. Here they got a 1-0 lead. They had to wait a while, but it didn't last long. And obviously 4 minutes later, the Predators tie, and then you had to ramp it up again. And we didn't really see, an outstanding, we talked about the Besser, and that was probably their best scoring chance after the Predators had tied the game at 1. As I go through my notes, the Besser chance and PD on the 2-on-1, that was it. But there really wasn't a late push. I thought as well as they executed with the extra attacker the other night. And 2 teams out there, I'll give the Predators credit in the way they defended, but just the Canucks kind of looked disjointed, certainly with their 6-on-5 set in the final minute of the hockey game.
Look, they have 2 more chances to end this series, right? You're still up 3-2 in this series. It's not over by any means, by any stretch. We're not sitting here and saying that, but stylistically, Jeff, I have to ask you, you obviously went to both those games in Nashville, and they're up 3-2 for a reason. Like, they won hockey games, but it almost feels like at some points in this series, and when you look at it, the Canucks are just playing down to their opponent. The Canucks are playing like they haven't really shown their game. Okay, it's great in the last 2 minutes of a hockey game when you're up 6-on-5, and you mentioned JT Miller says you can't really carry that over because it's basically a power play. But how do you not generate that type of urgency when you're on the power play and have the man advantage when clearly you've already done it before?
I hate to come back to this, but it's not even the elephant in the room anymore. They had an 89-point player in the regular season who is capable of breaking games wide open, but I feel like they're playing with one hand tied behind their back in this series. And, a scoreless game into the third period was just begging for a game breaker, and you keep waiting, and this market's been remarkably patient, and we're 5 games into this thing now, and Elias Pettersson, again, there were moments, but I don't want to talk about moments. I want to talk about, big-time players coming through in the crunch, the way that Miller and Besser did in those 2 games in Nashville. And, Nikita Zadorov stepping up, and, he's doing his part. He's trying hard. He's making things happen, and it's just not there for Elias Pettersson. And so it's frustrating. And I understand the fans. We're seeing it in the inbox. I see it on social, all that kind of stuff. And this was another night, but we're 5 games into this series now.
Yeah, but Jeff, he hasn't been good for a month before the playoffs.
I get
that. His last 2 goals were what? Is it Arizona, who is a team Buffalo that doesn't exist anymore, and the Arizona Coyotes, right? Like, there's 3 players in the top 6 who haven't scored in over a month. When you really go down and look at it, so
right,
we did see Lotto tonight.
Yep. We saw it early because he took the puck in the face, and then in the third period, I think they had at least 1 shift there, but it's not happening for them either.
Yeah.
And why isn't it happening? 2/3 of that line
not doing anything.
Making some things happen, but man, it is tough. It's tough to watch here and now, but it's also tough to wonder, like, is it going to get any better here? Like, even if they get through this round, it is fair to wonder, like, what is in store for Elias Pettersson?
I mean, he didn't even have any pop on that shot. I knew he had his spot, and you said it, but there wasn't the old Elias Pettersson
No, I agree
pop.
with you there.
There wasn't. It didn't come off his stick like an absolute rifle. Like it didn't. There wasn't much to it. It seemed like he wanted to finesse it and put it where he wanted and just miss it, but that shot did not look like how Elias Pettersson used to shoot the puck. So is there something wrong? I will never know. Probably at the end of the season, he's not going to make excuses for himself. That's just not who he is. So we can sit here and talk about it all we want. And I get it, Jeff. He is the game breaker that they so desperately need. But at some point, there's got to be someone else too.
This is Rink Wide Vancouver on a night that the Canucks missed their opportunity to score goals and obviously missed an opportunity to eliminate the Nashville Predators. Rink Wide is a presentation of the Applewood Auto Group, Ford, Nissan, Kia, Infiniti, Mitsubishi, Chevrolet. Start your search online. Like, that's the beauty of technology these days. You don't have to go walk the lot, or at least, you can find out a little bit about the inventory, new and pre-owned vehicles, applewood.ca. It's all good at Applewood. And the Predators feeling pretty good about things as they head home. And yeah, it'll be a raucous Friday night there. Still waiting a start time for game number 6 of this series. If there is a game 7, it'll go Sunday. So a quick turnaround there, but it's extra day of rest. If you're the Preds, you probably would like to get her going 48 hours from now and try and harness this momentum. But they will have to take the extra day. And it is important to remember that the Canucks are up 3-2 in this series. I mean, losses obviously are painful at any point in the playoffs, but this isn't all doom and gloom for the Vancouver Canucks. They still lead. The Predators still have to win 2 more games. And, I said earlier today that could I see the Nashville team that rattled off a 16-0-2 stretch in the second half of the season? Could I see them winning 3 in a row based on the way the series has gone? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
But can I see the Canucks losing 3 in a row? And that's where I have a problem because, look, they've been so good at nipping any kind of losing streak in the bud through the regular season. They had the 1 4-game losing streak out of the All-Star break where they kind of hit the wall and just didn't have it going on. But for the most part, Rick Tocchet and his structure and his staples have allowed the Canucks to respond and bounce back from a lot of losses. So let's see what happens. They're in the driver's seat, but it is funny. Momentum is a strange thing, certainly at this time of the year. And so we'll see what happens on Friday. Yes, the Predators are feeling good. They're still alive. They're going home. They probably think that they owe their fans one. But guess what? The Canucks have won 4 times in that building this year as well. So maybe it's law of averages. Maybe that's absolutely something to build on. If you're the Vancouver Canucks, that you're going to a place where you've had success, even if you didn't play that well in games 3 and 4 in the series, you found ways to eke out victories. And so, they shouldn't be scared or afraid going into Nashville, but it's not going to be easy. It is rarely easy. And it's been a strange series on so many levels that the road team has won 4 of 5, that opening the scoring here, the road team has opened the scoring in 4 of 5 as well. Yeah, 4. Sorry, my mouth is correct there. I just want to make sure that, the road team has won 4 of 5. In fact, the only time that the home team has won was game 1. And even then, it took the Canucks a while until they were able to turn that game in the 3rd period. So, there's a lot of things that haven't made sense in this series, but sometimes that's playoff hockey.
You mentioned structure, and we talked about it so much about this structure and the identity of this team and what they can be and the defensive part of their team. Like, is their identity? Are they going to be a defensively well playing hockey team? Because in this series, they are playing well defensively. You give up the goal on the power play that wasn't even a shot. It kind of just trickled in. So for the most part, you are playing well. But because of that, I go back to my point in the beginning of the show, Jeff, is because you're so focused on playing so well in your own end, does it hurt some of the things you're doing offensively? Like, you're just not generating much. And when you do, you're either missing the net, it's getting blocked, you're not doing anything on the power play, and your stars aren't your stars. So because of that, I just think it's this whole defensive mindset. And maybe it's the way the Nashville Predators play. Maybe it's the style. We saw them crashing and banging Quinn Hughes very early on in this series and getting on that forecheck and doing things that the Canucks didn't like and maybe weren't prepared for. But this is a game of adjustments. And when you look at it, like, there's a lot that Rick Tocchet has to make here heading into Friday night's game.
Yeah, as we just kind of parse the final stat sheet, 20 shots on goal. Again, not a great total. Outshot 22-20 on the night. But of the 20 shots, Quinn Hughes has 3. Elias Pettersson has 3. JT Miller has 3. That's almost half the shots. Those are the guys that you do want shooting the puck. Brock Besser, who's had the hot hand and has had a terrific series. He had 2 shots on goal. We talked about the chance that he had at 1-1 there in the third period. So it wasn't just two shots. There was an opportunity, certainly a scoring chance for Brock Besser, but it's not enough, obviously. And for a guy who had been fighting the puck in UC Saros, like, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense that you wouldn't test him, like volume. Put a bunch of pucks his way and see if he can handle that sort of workload. But he was good in this hockey game, and maybe that builds his confidence. On the other side, we talked about Roman Josi, 3 shots, 8 attempts. So he had the puck on his stick a fair bit, trying to make some things happen. Jason Zucker had 4 shots on goal to lead every shooter in this hockey game. Who was the other one? Cole Smith, the fourth liner for the Preds, had 3 shots on goal. So, again, not a ton of high danger chances, not a lot of just wasn't a lot of shot volume. In fact, the high dangers, and you pointed this out, the high dangers 13-5 in the Canucks' favor, according to Natural Stat Trick.
They're all at even strength because they didn't have anything on the power play.
They didn't do anything, but only 20 shots on goal on the night, and they had 13 high danger chances there. The scoring chances, according to Natural Stat Trick, were 29-16 at even strength. Again, the Predators dominated game number 3 and didn't have anything to show for it. Here, statistically, I mean, the game was tilted in the Canucks' favor. When you look at some of the individuals, like Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek, carried the shot share out 60% when those two guys are on the ice. Like, you want that to happen. I thought Quinn Hughes looked so much better, a world better than he did in either of the games in Nashville, even though it was just a day off and a chance to get some treatment for whatever was ailing him. Like, he had that spark. He had the spark this morning when we talked to him. He had a little glint in his eye. You could tell. He said he felt good, that he was enjoying playoff hockey. But he was zipping it in the first period. Like, he was making things happen the way that Quinn Hughes can. And so in some ways, it feels like a bit of a wasted effort there for the Vancouver Canucks, because it wasn't like Quinn Hughes was under siege. I was a little surprised, actually, that the way the Predators were able to tag him in the 2 games down in Nashville. Thought that they would just continue with that strategy, but I don't know if they backed off, if Quinn was a little more aware, if the Canucks did a slightly better job of chipping some guys and protecting. Whatever the case, it didn't feel like Quinn Hughes had that same target on his back. There were some big hits in this hockey game. We talked about Höglander on Carrier. Zadorov, when he stepped out of the penalty box, just absolutely rolled Ryan McDonough. It was a bit of a tough night for McDonough. He had that glorious opportunity off the rebound. And puck seemed to jump off his stick, and he wasn't able to convert there. But, he could have been a hero. Also, he had that chance, the glove save in the third period that Artur Silovs made a terrific stop off Ryan McDonough. So McDonough was around and involved in this hockey game, although not a lot of things going his way. But they went his team's way, certainly, as the Preds come up with a 2-1 victory, and they head for home now with this series that is extended. And game 4 again goes on Friday down in Nashville.
I always ask, because it's kind of funny, and I do it jokingly, what did you like, what did you hate on our social channels before we start these shows? So I'll ask you, what did you like about the Canucks game? Was it Shilovs and the first period and then kind of fell off after that? Or was it, I really, for basically of that, for me, it was a play of their goaltender. It was the first period they dominated, but then beyond that, like it was an ugly rest of the game for them.
Yeah, I like the first period. Yeah. I thought that the Canucks looked intent on taking care of business on home ice. And I just thought if they could keep that up and carry it into the second period and beyond, obviously they didn't. And give the Predators credit. Whatever adjustments Andrew Brunette and his coaching staff made, Preds were the better team in that second period, even though that's where the Canucks had some of those chances. We talked about the Garland and Lindholm opportunities. But I did like the start. I thought, like, this is a team that looked like it showed up ready to do what it had to do. And I'm just having flashbacks to 2011. Instead of Kevin Bieksa and the stanchion goal and clinching a playoff series on home ice, the opening round against the Chicago Blackhawks, the Canucks had an opportunity to take care of the Hawks and dispatch them. They lost game 5, and then they lost game 6, and obviously they came home and they got it right. But the second round against Nashville, they had a chance to take care of the Predators in 5 games on home ice, and the Preds were able to win that one. And so having just made the trek back from Nashville, and I flew commercially, I didn't have the charter. That's next, I think, for Nation Network to get a charter. But I was just delighted to have had the opportunity. But it is a long haul. It is. And I know it's the same for both teams, but, this is a blow for the Vancouver Canucks if they have designs on, having any kind of lengthy playoff run. And you can't even think about what's next and the next opponent in the next round. They got to get out of this first round. But these are miles now literally, figuratively, that they could have spared themselves had they come up and found a way to get a result in this hockey game.
Yeah, a couple more people from our social channels. Jeff A1 from YouTube. Goaltending is not the problem. Is DeSmith going to come back and score goals? Never said goaltending was the problem with this team, or it has been. Maybe one save they'd like back or whatever. It's the offense. It's the run support from the goaltender, especially when you're playing with your number 2 and your number 3 guy.
Yeah, well, I come back. I mean, 520 goal scorers. It sounds like a broken record, but this is part of the
89-point guy
right now is that 520 goal scorers, and really, it's only the 40 goal scorer that has scored with any regularity in this series for the Vancouver Canucks. So will that change on Friday? We'll find out. If it doesn't, then hey, strap yourself in. We could very well be doing this on Sunday night in a winner-take-all one-game showdown. Lots still ahead here on this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver. You see the social channels and the feedback opportunities on the screen if you're watching us on Twitter or on the YouTube live stream as well. Hit us up. We want to hear from you, your thoughts. As Irf said, what do you like and what didn't you like about this hockey game, and how confident are you? Does that change now as this thing goes back to Nashville, or are you still feeling pretty good? Vancouver Canucks, the higher seed. They were 10 points better than the Predators in the regular season. They look like they've got more top-end talent, but did that matter on a night like tonight? No, it didn't. And the goaltending question obviously is going to carry on. And I don't think there's a wrong answer here. Like, Artur Silovs is showing, like, all this guy is doing with each of these outings is showing that he's an NHL goaltender who spent the year in Abbotsford. Like, he's ready. He's ready to be here on a full-time basis. That's a different conversation, obviously, for next season and beyond, but hasn't looked out of place in any of his times in the National Hockey League last year, his first look around, late in the season here, and these 2 games now against the Preds. He's done his part, and you're right. Can't blame him for the power play. No shots on goal. So if they go back to Silovs, you can understand that. Maybe the tide has turned here, or maybe arrested Casey DeSmith is the answer for Friday night. So hit us up in the feedback channels. We want to hear from you. We've still got our stat that stands out. We'll take a look around the National Hockey League, the out-of-town scoreboard, and the other series as well. We'll check in on some of the lines of this hockey game. So a lot still ahead here, but let's get to the 3 stars right now because, again, a low-scoring game, but there were some solid individual performances, I thought. And we talked about Filip Forsberg, led the Preds in scoring, 48 goals. Hasn't been as dangerous as a goal scorer in this series, but he does have 2, the one off the skate the other day and the beautiful one in game number 2. But he is making things happen, and that top line has been a handful for the Vancouver Canucks. And again, on the ice for both of the goals that were scored, primary assist on the Yossi goal, secondary assist on the Carrier winner. But I've got Filip Forsberg, the 2 assists and 4 hits, drew the cross-checking penalty as well. May have sold it a little bit, but there's some talk that he's been playing through something, doesn't take part in the morning skates, and this has been going on for a while now. But if you see he's hurt, he's putting that aside, and he's showing up now for the Nashville Predators. So I've got Forsberg as the first star here on this one. Nikita Zadorov, the goal and 4 hits, and he was pumped, and the crowd loving everything that he brings to this mix right now. But he can't do it alone, ultimately. And so he's trying his best. His second goal of the series, he has 3 points in the 5 games. We've got Nikita Zadorov down as the second star, and Juuse Saros came into the series, as we said, an .859 save percentage, .950 on the night, though, and there were some chances there for the Vancouver Canucks. And so his best game of the series by far, Juuse Saros is the 3rd star of this hockey game.
It's funny, everyone after the Nikita Zadorov goal wanted to give him all the money that they were going to give to Dakota Joshua after his game 1. So it's interesting how some of this stuff works. I mean, look, Nikita Zadorov is having himself a great playoffs. It's the rest of the team. He was also on the ice for that tying goal, so pushing the guy in front of him, maybe wreaking some more havoc in front of his own goaltender there. So, maybe trying to, instead of getting a guy, trying to clear the puck out instead. But obviously the Canucks didn't come away with this. But I had no problem with Filip Forsberg. I mean, he's a monster, 48 goals in the regular season. He's obviously playing through something. The cross check that he took from Zadorov, that hurt him. He obviously hit him in the area that there obviously wasn't any sort of equipment there. And then Juuse Saros is doing what Juuse Saros is paid to do, right? He makes some saves when timely when you need to. But from the Canucks point of view, why we sit here and do this is Canucks really didn't test him enough yet again. And that's another thing, another reason why they don't have a win here tonight.
Yossi was named the first star in the building, and we should show him a little bit of love.
Yep.
Again, had been waiting for him to sort of have a signature moment. It was a bit of a sketchy goal, but it stood, and it was a goal that the Preds needed in that moment, obviously, to tie the game, and it set the table for them to get the winner. But Guy logs huge minutes, and he did again, 26 minutes and 23 seconds, not as high as the 30 minutes and 31 that he played earlier in the series, but still, he's a workhorse back there on the back end and one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League. So we'll get him honorable mention, but he did get first star love in the building. The 3 stars of the game are brought to you by Gretabar YVR, Canucks Army's home for food, drinks, and watching the game. And make sure you attend the Canucks Army playoff watch party for road games throughout the postseason. And maybe this is the silver lining in the fact that there's going to be a game in Nashville. It's a Friday night. If you're looking for a place to get together with friends, well, there you go. If you missed out, quite the atmosphere on Sunday as the Canucks pulled off the miraculous comeback. Join the crew at our favorite game day watch party spot, Greta Bar YVR. Game 6 on Friday. Tickets are $10. Good food, good prizes, and a guaranteed good time. Get your tickets at nationgear.ca before they sell out. Alex Carrier gets the winner with 7 minutes to go in the third period after Roman Josi had scored to tie this game. Nikita Zadorov opens the scoring 3 minutes into the third period, and that was it. 2-1 Nashville as the Preds claw back in this series. Canucks still up 3-2 with game number 6 set for Friday in Nashville. So that means you and I will be back at this
Friday night, baby.
Not making the trip to Nashville. I'm going to sit this one out. It's such a quick turnaround, but I'll be here in studio with you. And we'll see what Friday brings, and we'll continue to break that down. We'll continue to talk about this one and some of the other topics and things going on around this hockey club. It's that time of year. There's lots of things to get into, so we're just getting started here. 2-1 Preds beat the Vancouver Canucks in game number 5. You're watching and listening to Rink Wide Vancouver. We're back on Rink Wide Vancouver, 2-1 Predators over the Canucks here in Vancouver, and the series going back to Nashville. Rick Tocchet at the podium. Some of the quotes, we'll get to those in a sec. I want to tell you that this portion of Rink Wide Vancouver is a presentation of the Vancouver Canadians. The C's are back at the Nat. You can catch fireworks and giveaways, Friday nooners, superstar appearances, all spring and summer long. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com. I know when we were in Nashville, I saw that they were rained out 4 consecutive games. So tough stretch. Weather was a little nicer down in Nashville, but won't rub that one in. C's are giving away a record 33 giveaways this year. They're home at Nat Bailey Stadium Tuesday, May the 7th for a homestand that includes a superstar appearance on the 7th, a nooner at the Nat on the 10th, and a family fun Sunday on the 12th where kids 12 and under can run the bases. For tickets, call 604-872-5232 or go to CanadiansBaseball.com. All right, Rick Tocchet said it was a 50-50 call on the Josi goal. In that moment, that feels like you roll the dice, I think. You have a 1-0 lead. If it goes your way, you stay in the lead. A crowd obviously would have got into it if the call was overturned and the goal didn't count. A little surprised that if they thought truly that it was a 50-50 call, that they would.
Why didn't they go with it?
Yeah.
It's funny because for years we've talked about I mean, it's not on the video crew. At the end of the day, Rick Tocchet is the one's probably making the decision on it, right? It comes down to him through Mike Yeo or whoever he's talking to his eye in the sky. But for years, we've talked about how they didn't miss on challenges. And they were a team that was so dialed in with their video department, and they would nail it every single time. I think situationally, they probably did get this one a little bit wrong. I think, yeah, you're right, Jeff, up 1-0. They could have kept that, or it was tie game, and then you give Nashville the momentum. So But if it is, and what the head coach has said, if it's 50-50, why are you not challenging it? And I think that that's another reason why, everyone here in our YouTube channel and on all of our socials is saying there's no chance the Canucks shouldn't have challenged that goal.
We talked about Elias Pettersson. We've talked about some other guys. Dakota Joshua's contributions to this series. He had a terrific game one, and really since then it has been a struggle. And I'm not pinning this loss on him, but he's in the penalty box. Canucks took 4 penalties. Again, the Predators have had, I think the power plays are 19-13 now in this series, and Canucks go for 2 on the night. Predators did go 1 for 4. Dakota Joshua was trying to be physical, but crosses the line, puts it in the hands of the officials. It's called boarding in a 1-0 game. That's tough, obviously, for him. I get that he's trying to have a physical impact, but he's not having much of an impact anywhere, quite frankly. I'm a little surprised. Looked so good in game one. This is a guy that came back from the hand injury, was a force. Looks like he's built for playoff hockey, but it's just really not happening for Dakota Joshua.
He's built for game one. And I mean, he took the penalty early on in the game on the road as well, which was called a major at the time, and then they reduced it to a minor penalty. So you got to be careful, right? If you're Dakota Joshua, you can't go around running and hitting guys from behind. The referees are going to call that on you every single time. And if you're going to contribute and you want to get on that score sheet, you got to go to the areas where you've had your success. And that's in front of the net. That's making life miserable for the opposing team's goaltender. And that's just something that we haven't seen other than in game one. We gave him so much credit for having these hands and being able to finish in front. And he's a guy that, the Canucks are going to have to open the checkbook for. Well, playoff performances sometimes do dictate that a little bit. You had the great one in game one, but you really can't fall off the face of the earth and take bad penalties. And that's exactly kind of what's happening for him too. I mean, look, I'm going to put Nils Höglander in that list as well. He's a guy that scored a lot of the goals this season. Elias Pettersson is obviously at the top of that list. And then Connor Garland, right? As well, another guy. I know he's picked up a couple of assists, but he's a pit bull on the puck. He's a guy that guys don't like playing against in the offensive zone. So where's that line kind of been? Elias Lindholm, he's finding his groove. He's scoring goals. He's getting chances. But again, they got to figure something out here and try to get, a number of these players involved or at least something different in the offensive zone. Get into Saros's kitchen, because right now things are just too easy for that goaltender.
Not a single shot attempt for Dakota Joshua.
Yeah.
And not a single shot attempt for Nils Höglander.
0-0-0-0.
Yeah. I mean,
just a couple hits, but even then.
And again, I thought Höglander had a decent first period and then kind of quieted. Doesn't play a lot, 10 minutes and 24 seconds. There wasn't a lot of power play time for the Canucks. Not that he gets a ton of power play, but he's on that second unit. Whatever the case, just over 10 minutes of ice time. But, 3 hits in the first period, and then that was it. Didn't add to that total. And for Dakota Joshua, 14 minutes and 17 seconds of ice time. So he played a little bit more. 4 hits, sure, but nothing doing. Not a single shot attempt there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, Petey's at the top of the list, there's no doubt, but there are too many guys that just haven't shown up offensively for a team that made goal scoring look so easy in the early going. The top end guys did, and the loyal soldiers sort of fell in line and chipped in, and it's just not happening. So we'll see if it does. Game 6, another opportunity for the Vancouver Canucks, but they're looking for somebody other than Brock Besser and JT Miller to bring it with a consistent effort in one of these playoff games for the hockey club. All right, let's get to the stat that stands out. Some options, even in a low-scoring game. We were able to come up with some stats that stand out from this night for the Vancouver Canucks. And again, you can see it on the stat sheet. Nashville scores on the game's only power play shot. So 6 power plays in this hockey game. And obviously the one that they scored on isn't the full 2 minutes, but the Predators had 6 minutes and 24 seconds of power play time in this game. The Canucks had 4 minutes even. It's over 10 minutes with one measly power play shot on goal. So credit the penalty killers. I thought the Canucks, yes, they give up one in a 1-goal loss. They lose the special teams battle. They lose the hockey game, but the 3 penalties that they had killed off successfully, denials at the line, like they forced the Predators into bad situations. They had trouble gaining the zone, couldn't set up, but the same thing went for this Canuck power play that, won them the game in Nashville in game number 3. The power play went 2 for 3 there, and they made it look pretty easy. And here tonight, it was sort of back to that power play that we saw so often down the stretch that was just a monumental struggle for the Canucks. And when it's struggling, it's generally the gaining the zone and setting up. And I know people freak out about the power play or the drop pass. They're not the only team that does it, but there were a couple of drop passes tonight where, a guy beats the first man up ice, and now all of a sudden they only have 3 defenders. Like, there's a ton of open space. Like, attack the open space. And instead, it's like old habits die hard here, and they feel they need to swing it back and, hit the line with speed. But Preds were able to regroup and deny the entries on a lot of those power play opportunities for the Vancouver Canucks. So, special teams kind of, it cuts both ways. Penalty kill's been really good, but cracked a little bit. And in a 1-goal game, power play goal obviously was huge for the Nashville Predators. But yes, if you're a fan of, power plays and zipping the puck around.
This isn't the series for you.
Yeah, this certainly wasn't the night for you. That is a stat that stands out. Again, you're not going to see that very often, but unfortunately, we all witnessed it, that just one power play shot, and the one power play shot wound up in the net of the Vancouver Canucks. The stat that stands out, a presentation of the fine folks at Fountain Tire as we head further into spring. Ask the Fountain Tire experts about their seasonal car care package to keep your vehicle in top shape. Find your nearest service dealer at fountaintire.com. All right, so earlier in the day, we heard, and I asked Rick Tocchet, is Vasily Podkolzin been a consideration at any point in this series? He's here as an extra body. So is Nils Amon up front. You got Noah Juulsen and Mark Friedman as the extra defenseman, and you want some extra bodies, obviously. But Podkolzin not playing in the NHL playoffs, while Abbotsford is playing in the American Hockey League playoffs, it makes no sense to me to have a young player who needs game time, and you've got your farm team down the street playing playoff hockey. Now, they had to go to Colorado for that opening round. They get through. They won in overtime on Sunday, like the Canucks, the big league Canucks were winning in overtime. So, it was a good day for the organization.
Yeah.
And Rick Tocchet admitted that, look, if Podkolzin didn't play in this game, and he didn't, so he's been a healthy scratch in all 5 of the games here in the series, they were going to send him to Abbotsford. Now, Abbotsford starts on the road against the LA Kings farm team down in Southern California, and then it's a best of 5 with, I think, the 3 games. We'll see. It starts with 2 on the road and see where it is there, but guaranteed 1 home game. So it'll be curious to see if they send Podkolzin to join the team down in Ontario, California, or if he travels with the Canucks to Nashville. But I just don't like to see young guys sitting out. And, is he a difference maker? He's another guy that didn't score a goal for the Canucks.
He hits a lot, but there's got a lot of guys that are doing that right now.
Right. So I'm not sure. I'd like to see a little more from Sam Lafferty, quite frankly. I think PDG's giving them some penalty kill moments. And
well, that's the thing, right? Because that's almost
coming out
that's almost the automatic of who you're going to take out.
Sam Lafferty's been a little too quiet, I find, in this series for a guy that skates well and has some size and has playoff experience last year with the Leafs. And again, I'm not looking at Sam Lafferty to be a game breaker, but could Vasily Podkolzin bring this team a little bit of jump? And I think that's open for debate. But I'll be interested. As we went into the Canucks locker room after the morning skate this morning, Podkolzin was standing in the hallway talking with Patrick Alvin, and I wonder if that discussion was about their plans for Vasily Podkolzin. So we'll see where things go. Do you see any sort of role for him in this series at this stage as it goes to game number 6?
If you're looking for a spark, I think from someone to come that hasn't played in a while, or you're going to bring them in to provide that spark for you, I'm sorry, it's just probably not going to be Vasily Podkolzin. This is the one that you're going to have to find within to go get it done. The Canucks are going to have to dig deep here in Nashville, and they're going to need their stars to be their stars. It's the point of conversation. They've got a bunch of guys, the 89-point guy. They've got a 40-goal scorer. They've got a 100-point guy. They've got a defenseman who's put up absolute nuclear numbers all season long. And you know what? I'm not putting this one on him because he's been an absolute dog for them every single game that he's played in these playoffs and has taken a beating. But it's the other guys. You mentioned Sam Lafferty. It's do something. It's Niels Höglander. It's do something. Ilya Mikheyev, we can talk about it and joke about it. He probably might not score again, but maybe get in front of the net. Let Elias Pettersson, get that shot off and wreak some havoc in front of a team's opposing goalie. A lot of people as well still chiming in on our YouTube chat here, and Jeff just saying some funny stuff. Logan, he said, I know I'm a guy on the couch, but why do they struggle to score on a 5'10" goalie? I think that's one of the questions that can really be asked, because the book on Sorrow says, yeah, he comes out and challenges and plays large, but really when he's in his net, you can pick your spot and find it.
Well, along those lines, Mason on Twitter says, Vancouver's averaged 18 shots per game against what's believed to be the weakest playoff opponent in the Western Conference. Now, again, second half of the season, Preds had 1 more point than the Canucks did since Christmas. So really it's been a push over the last bunch of months, but the Canucks finished 10 points ahead of the Nashville Predators. Again, a 27-win team on home ice this year for the Vancouver Canucks. And now all of a sudden they can't score and they can't generate offense. And a lot of it tracks back to the fact that he's not putting many pucks on the net. And Tocchet's talked about he doesn't want them throwing pucks from all angles, but what you're doing. I'm not Dr. Phil here, but like, how's it working for you? Like, what you're doing isn't working necessarily to generate much offense. So maybe it is time to look at some alternate plans. We'll see what Game 6 looks like on Friday. All right, let's take a look at what we missed as this game unfolded. I know that you were keeping an eye on the lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Throughout the day for Bet365.
Yeah, our segment's brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Sekeres & Price, Canucks Conversation, and obviously us here at Rink Wide Vancouver. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use the code VANBONUS. The Canucks were minus 125 going into this hockey game, which I found was interesting because of their goaltender. I think that decision kind of moved the line. Maybe a lot of people thought it might have moved it a little bit, maybe a couple points down or a couple points up in one way or the other, but they're a pretty heavy favorite in this home game, Jeff, going. So if you would have taken the Nashville Predators, probably plus 105, you would have made yourself some coin here tonight in Game 5. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, the goaltending is going to be a big question for the Vancouver Canucks. What do they do with 2 days in between games here? Is it going to be DeSmith? Is it another 2 games? The message from the Vancouver Canucks is we were okay with starting Shilovs. Obviously, we're not going to pin this loss on him. Giving Casey another day of rest. I thought yesterday that it was going to be DeSmith if he was ready to go, but I guess the message within the organization was, let's give him another day. We're up 3-1 in this series. Worst possible case scenario is, I got to go back to DeSmith in game 6 now in Nashville, and you're in that scenario.
Yeah, no, I think they've got a decision to make.
Yeah,
here.
so do I.
Artur Silovs has given them 2 solid performances. Yep. You could run it back with Silovs, who just posted a win. He knows what Bridgestone Arena is going to look and feel like. And if it doesn't go well for him in Game 6, you could turn to Casey DeSmith Game 7, but by then DeSmith's going to go a week without game action. But he is a guy that has NHL experience, the veteran, been at this for a while. Is he up to the challenge of a Game 7? So I do think they've got a decision on their hands, because if it doesn't go well for DeSmith in game number 6, then are you turning to Artie for Game 7? Neither one of these guys has a boatload of experience when it comes to Stanley Cup playoffs, certainly. So we'll have to see. I mean, Ian Clark generally has made the right calls for the Vancouver Canucks in his time as the goaltending consultant, and we know that Rick Tocchet leans on him an awful lot. Who would you start in Game 6 between DeSmith and Silovs? Hit us up in our feedback channels, the Great Clips chat line, presentation of Great Clips with more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada. Great Clips, the world's largest hair salon brand and official hair salon of the National Hockey League. For more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips, it's going to be great. Well, this wasn't great for the Vancouver Canucks. It could have been. What might have been. The celebration would still be going on. People would be in our Great Clips chat line. Yeah, they'd be having fun. They'd probably be digging into a few 4 wins at now, but they're not at 4 wins.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yes. Should we go there now and take a look around the National Hockey League and what's happening on the out-of-town scoreboard and some of those other series? And you can see on our dashboard on the screen, 3-2 Canucks as they head for Nashville. Colorado is through to round number 2. And look, we knew that a good team was going to be out in the first round in that series, right? Winnipeg had the upper hand. They had home ice advantage. Colorado just pumped Connor Hellebuck, though. I mean, that's really one of the, and that's kind of what that series boiled down to. 4-1. The Avs take care of the Jets in 5. So
you knew Colorado wasn't going to get saves because who their goaltender was, but you did not think that Winnipeg was not going to be able to get saves from their goaltender, who's probably going to win the Vezina. Now they're sitting pretty. Dallas and Vegas tied 2-2.
Yeah.
And those teams are going to beat each other up for the rest of the series. And that series between those 2 teams, Colorado and if it's Vegas or Dallas, is going to be an absolute war.
Carolina got to 4 wins. Take care of Bo Horvat and the New York Islanders. You see the Kuznetsov penalty shot?
I love it. Because they're not going to change it. He's not going backwards. He's not doing anything against the rule
takes
book.
Forever, but it works for him. Anyways, 4-1. Carolina knocks off the Islanders. Bo, for those wondering, he had a goal and 2 assists in the 5 games there, so not a huge output for the former Canuck captain. The other New York team is advancing, did already with a 4-game sweep over the Washington Capitals. Florida took care of the Tampa Lightning in 5 games as well, and the Leafs are still alive. Without Austin
Matthews and Joseph Woll in net.
Yeah, Matthew Nyes comes through in overtime. Bruins still up 3-2, so in the driver's seat there. But, the Toronto Maple Leafs will go back home and see what they can do if they can force this thing to a 7th game as well. So that's the East. And then Edmonton and Los Angeles taking an extra day between their games. The Oilers with a chance to advance on home ice on Wednesday night.
I was looking at when I was going through and making some notes, obviously, for the game, you know, to go to NHL.com is where you find all your stats and your things like that, and you look at. So something interesting that I saw, speaking of 4 wins, is you pull it up and you see it. And the Vancouver Canucks, they have the breakdown of basically every single game and it's the scores and that and everything. So NHL.com, the league website, has the Vancouver Canucks winning this series 4-3. Yeah. Which would mean that it's coming home for game 7. It's just interesting. I thought it was funny to look at, you know, people having some fun with it on our socials as well. But the script has been leaked, so they say, Jeff. Our poll question in our YouTube channels here, you know, you mentioned it very quickly. Archer Seelovs leading the way for your game 6 starter.
All right. Well, we do this on every edition of Rink Wide, and that is check in on those other series around the National Hockey League. It takes 4 wins to get through an opening round, and the Canucks are stuck on 3 after this 2-1 victory. But this portion of Rink Wide, a presentation of 4 Winds Brewing, family-owned and operated out in Delta. Check out the 4 Winds Brewing Tap Room and Kitchen. It's located in the Tilbury area, serving beers, burgers, and their famous tacos every day from 11 in the morning until 8 at night. 4 Winds Brewing, also home to the 4 Winds Light Lager, a crisp, clean, and easy drinking beer, a beer for everyone. Perfect beer for before or after or during the game. 4 Winds Light Lager, you can ask for it at your local liquor store or have some delivered right to your door through their online shop at 4windsbrewing.ca. Yes, the Vancouver Canucks, they've got some work to do, certainly. And again, I'm really curious now to see if Game 6 will look fundamentally different than the first 5. Obviously, Game 2, the Canucks had the 84 shot attempts, and the Predators blocked, 30, I think was the final number on that night. Like, that game stands out for the way that it was played. Otherwise, this series has just been a slogfest, essentially, and the Preds seem happy enough with that. And so, you know, are they going to try to deploy the same game plan and force the Vancouver Canucks, one of these game breakers, to step up and finally have the night of the series? Because it really hasn't happened. Obviously, there hasn't been enough offense for the Vancouver Canucks. You want to keep believing that the Canucks have enough scoring power, but we can talk till we're blue in the face here until it shows up. Like, honestly, the numbers on paper and take regular season and chuck it out the window.
You have to.
I mean, there is an element of that because right now, Nils Höglander's 24 goals. I don't mean an awful lot. Elias Pettersson and his 89 points. I don't mean a whole lot. Connor Garland getting to 20 there with the way that he played in the second half of the season. You know, it's been a little frustrating and, quite frankly, a little disappointing. Like, you know, the hustle was there in the second period. I'll never question Connor Garland's effort, but it all tracks back to this idea of execution. Everybody's trying hard out there. And, you know, I thought the Canucks maybe got a little bit of a break. Like, the Preds were already down Spencer Stastny. He left the series. So Dante Fabro, the Quitlam kid, drew in the other day. Luke Shen, we were told just before game time.
Sick. Yeah.
And illness. Tyson Barrie is the forgotten man. Like, honestly, I thought he was taking the warm-up before we knew that Shen was ill. I was like, maybe Tyson Barrie just kind of wants to experience, like, get the feel of playoff hockey back in his home province, whatever. He took the warm-up, and then
he didn't play bad.
Took line rushes with Ryan McDonough. He ends up getting an assist on the tying goal. So, you know, the power play for the Preds had been a bit of an issue, and I think that's an area that, you know, if Barrie was going to find a way to contribute, it was probably in that portion of the hockey game. He ends up getting a point. So, you know, we'll see if Luke Shen recovers in time to play again. He's got the extra day here. But I would think that Andrew Brunette's got a little bit of a decision as well. Does he touch a winning lineup? Does he get the veteran Luke Shen back in there? So, you know, we'll monitor that situation, whatever the case. But, yeah, I mean, look, the Canucks are down to, I get that, but the Predators they were without 2 of the defensemen that started this series, and the Canucks still couldn't get a goal from a forward against the depth of this Predators defense. So, you know, that's one of the storylines, too, that I'm keeping a pretty close eye on as this thing moves along here.
Well, absolutely. And I think from a Canuck fan perspective, and I think all of us sitting here, we cover this series, we cover this team all year long, Jeff, is where's the offense going to come? Because it's there. It was there. at some point this season. Then it fell off a little bit for some of the guys, but they got it back. They played decently well down the stretch a little bit. They beat some really good teams in that run of home games. Beat the LA Kings, you beat the Winnipeg Jets. Like, you are playing well at some point. You beat the Dallas Stars. But yeah, you got to throw everything. You throw everything at the net again. And if Nashville's going to play the game where they want to block 50,000 shots again or do whatever they did, then that's the game that they have to play. But if you're the Canucks, your foot has to be on the throat. It wasn't tonight. And I think that was one of the things that when you go and look at it in a 3-1 series lead, you're at home in game 5, you have your foot on the throat of this team and you couldn't finish them off. Now you're giving them a little bit of breathing room, and that's scary.
Yeah, block shots, if people are wondering, 19-15 in the Canucks' favor. So, it wasn't that long ago the Preds were blocking 30 shots. Here, the Canucks, the Canucks finished the night with 54 shot attempts total for a team that had 84 in game number 2. And again, puck possession is great if you do things with it, but eventually just holding on to the puck, that doesn't accomplish an awful lot. So, Canucks haven't looked like that team that got to 109 points in the regular season, but playoff hockey is all about matchups. And again, I think the Predators have done a nice job. Andrew Brunette, a lot of people think that this is a matchup of 2 of the 3 finalists for Coach of the Year. We'll find out here shortly as league awards the finalists are starting to be named now. They are a well-coached team. There's no doubt about that. And Andrew Brunette's got a game plan, and it seems to be working. And Rick Tocchet leaning on his best players for Canucks. But our listeners and viewers have been coming through for us all postseason, and we certainly hope that will continue. And certainly hope that there's more than 2 of these rink wides left in the regular season. But that's on the Vancouver Canucks. We'll do this after every game the Canucks play in the playoffs. And we know there'll be a game 6. And we'll see if there's a game 7 or if they move on to round number 2. But it's at this point of Rink Wide, we always like to check in on who's checking us out from around the world. We call it Rink Wide Worldwide, and we're adding these pins as we go. North Dakota, Nodak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I see that. We've got somebody down in Southern California that taking some time as well. The Philippines as well. Now, I got to mention, Tommy on IG said we gave him a shout out a couple of weeks ago. Says he's a Swede down in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay.
But he doesn't like where Jacob put the pin on the map for Melbourne.
Oh, no.
Said we put it in Western Australia, and Melbourne is in Victoria, which is southeast, if I have my Australian geography
I definitely don't, so this is on you.
We may have to look at that again. I mean, there's certainly a pin way out there on the west side of Australia, but there's a couple over on the eastern shores as well. Maybe that's one for you, Tommy. I don't know. Whatever.
Jeff, I'm going to hop in here.
Yeah.
And yes, Western Australia there. That's Perth. We've got a viewer from wonderful Perth, Australia. And yes, there is now a pin on Melbourne. So we've got down under all covered.
We're a show for the people. If you don't like where your pin is, let us know. We'll move it around. That was Jacob, and he's the mastermind behind the map. Does a nice job with it. And again, we apologize to Tommy, but we thank you for your support. Thank you for the first time you reached out and the second time as well. We don't guarantee like absolute precision. It's a map. We're trying to have some fun here on Rink Wide, but I wanted to thank Tommy for his support of the program. But keep that coming. I always like the morning after Rink Wide going through our feedback channels and seeing who we can add to that list. So take a moment if you have one to let us know, because we like the local support for the program as well. But I just think it's cool to sort of see the reach and the stretch of Canucks Nation and how far that Canuck brand travels. And I saw it firsthand down in Nashville. It'll be interesting to see. This is a little bit more, if you make that first trip, you're getting 2 games out of it. That's a long way to go for 1 game. And I would think the tickets for a game 6 will be a little tougher to come by. We know that they had already put some things in place there that made it difficult to get your hands on first sold tickets. So I'm not sure that there will be that same representation at Bridgestone Arena from Canuck Nation that there was. But after the Wild win on Sunday out in the streets, and why wouldn't you? Like, people in Canucks jerseys peacocking down Broadway, because it was just an incredible victory and something that I won't soon forget, having been lucky enough to be there in person to witness it, but not heading back there. So as we said, we'll do game 6 here from the studio on Friday as we await. Have we seen? The league hasn't come out with start time just yet. So that will come probably in the light of day, I would imagine, and they'll give both teams ample warning of They're not going to spring.
I'm going to assume a 4:30 probably start on a Friday afternoon in Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably it'll depend if there's an early game in the East. But right now, Friday, there are no Eastern games scheduled. So we know Dallas and Vegas are going to play on Friday.
That's your late game.
That's going to be your late game. So that may push the Canucks game actually earlier than, as you said, somewhere in the 4:00 hour in Nashville. Well, that'd be 6:00 hour, but 4:00 here. Be prepared for a bit of an earlier start. Book off if you're working on Friday. Tell the boss.
Let's get the party started
coming
early.
Down with a little something. Yeah, and again, we remind you, there's the watch party at Greta Bar YVR. Well, just a disappointing night. Missed opportunities on the ice, on the win column, and the chase for 4 victories as well. But Canuck fans, I think, are used to missed opportunities and disappointment. They've been torched many times over the years. I think I saw that today was the 30th anniversary of Kirk McLean with the pad save, and Pavel Bure ultimately taking the pass from Jeff Brown and beating the Calgary Flames back in 1994. So
how happy did Trevor Linden look in the crowd?
Yeah, and Stan Smeal cranking the siren. Like they're bringing back the favorites and the captains. And
Trevor with his kid. It was awesome to see. And, he's sitting in the stands. Having fun, enjoying it.
No, he did. He
did the chest bump. It's hard. Dave did the little thing there. It was great.
I mean, I know it didn't end well for him in management, but he said it repeatedly. Like, he wants the city to succeed. He wants the organization.
Yeah.
He's still got Sedins and others that are in the franchise that are friends of his and former teammates, and he knows what the Canucks mean to, if anybody does, he knows what the Canucks mean to the city of Vancouver. So, kind of cool to see him and his son taking in some playoff hockey at Rogers Arena. All right, this is a hockey club that needs a hero. They had one the last time they were in Nashville. Maybe it'll be Brock Besser again or JT Miller. Those guys played their asses off at Bridgestone Arena, basically willed the Canucks to the 2 victories there, goaltending decision, and a question of will some others, particularly the forwards, will somebody please step up for the Vancouver Canucks as this series heads back to Tennessee for a Game 6 on Friday night. All right, thanks to everybody for joining us in the feedback channels as well. We're here after Game 6. So we'll be here after Game 7 if necessary as well. Again, thanks to all of our sponsors, the presenting sponsors, Applewood Auto Group and the Vancouver Canadians, and everybody that has stepped up here through the offseason to make Rink Wide a possibility that allowed us to travel to be at Bridgestone, and that was fun. But, we'll see if it's fun for the Canucks on Friday night as they head back to Nashville. For the guys working behind the scenes, Jacob and Mike, and for Irf here with me in studio, thanks to everybody. 2-1, the Predators defeat the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks still up 3-2 in this series, but we'll see where things go from here. That's going to do it for this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.